you get to create whatever it is that you focus upon. In fact, you do create whatever it is that you focus upon. And by creating one thing, you don't disallow another. You can have it all. Ooh, did you hear that? So what keeps you, leading edge creators, what keeps any of you from experiencing, from having, from possessing, from living, from owning, from knowing something that you desire? What does pinch it off? If it isn't that there just isn't enough to go around and the greedy ones are getting it all, if it's not that, and it isn't, if it isn't that someone else has decided what you're worthy of or not worthy of and holding back on your behalf, then what is it? It is that only you can hold yourself apart from something that you want, and the only way that you do it is by focusing upon the absence of what you want, because what you're pointing at with your thoughts and with your words is what you're practicing a vibrational frequency of, and that's what you're getting. That's what you're letting in. But you get confused about it, because sometimes when you are in a state of desiring something, you're pointing right at what you desire, and you feel good when you're thinking about it. There's no resistance. There's no pinching it off when you feel like that. But when you feel jealous of what someone else has, or angry at yourself that you haven't created more effectively or efficiently, when you feel negative emotion, that's when you are pointing in opposition to what you want. And the reason that we are so sure about that is because every time you pointed at what you wanted, your inner being pointed at it too. And law of attraction began amassing around this powerful pointing of you and you. And even when you, in your human form, got discouraged and stopped pointing at what you want, but instead began pointing at all the reasons that you are using to justify why you don't have it, your inner being continued to point in the direction of what you want. And that is, in fact, that pointing difference is what your emotions are all about. Esther has been saying to anyone who asks, and since hardly anyone does, she tells a lot of people who aren't asking. If they say, what do you do? She says, I'm a pointer. And that's usually about as far as that conversation goes, because she looks crazy, you know. But what she means is, I point at what I want, and law of attraction and the universe takes care of it. Cooperative components are gathered, and what I want begins to take shape. And the more I point at what I want, then the more what I want comes into form. And the more I point at it, the more awarenesses I have of other things that I think might be helpful to assist me in the receiving of it. Sometimes you point at something like a new house, and then you need to point at someone who's going to build it, unless you're going to do it yourself. And Esther's not going to do it herself. So she points at the idea of the new house, and as it comes into being, then she points at all kinds of things about the house. I would like that for the floor, and I would like that for the paint color, and I would like that for the tile, and I would like that, and I would like that, and I would like that, and I would like all of those people who know how to do it just the way I like it to come and assist. I'm a pointer. I'm a pointer. I'm a pointer. That's what a creator is, a pointer. And a deliberate creator is someone who continues to point at what you want. But as humans, and it's all right, you've come to sift and sort and to come to conclusions about what you prefer. In the sifting and sorting process, often you're pointing at what you don't want. In fact, you usually point at what you don't want before you get clear about what you do want. But what we've noticed about so many of you is, even though you come into greater clarity about what you do want as you've been aware of the things that you don't want, so often, and we love you so much, you continue to point at what you don't want while you talk about what you do want. You keep noticing how things are. And what we really want you to hear is that your life is so full and fantastic, and you have so many facilities in order to observe it. Your physical senses, your hearing and seeing and smelling and tasting and touching everything that's around you, and that makes you more likely to keep pointing at what you see. But if you are pointing at it just because it is, look over there, you say, well, look at that. How often, rather than look at that, you're saying, well, look at that. And you can tell by your own attitude when you're saying, look at that, it might not be something that you really want to point at, because you're going to move in the direction of what you point at. Jerry learned that with Esther. They're driving down the highways in the big old 45-foot bus with a car behind it. Esther did most of the driving. And Jerry would say, look at that rainbow. And then he would notice that Esther would start moving in the direction. It wasn't long before he learned to only point out things to her that were right ahead. Because you do move in the direction of what you're pointing at what you're looking at. And so we want you to just pay attention over the next few days, especially at how many things you're pointing at come into your experience in a very, very strong way, because law of attraction is relentless. The law of attraction brings back to you and fast what is active in your vibration. Sometimes something happened in your experience maybe 20 years ago. And of course you observed it, you were pointing at it, maybe a lot of people were pointing at it. It was something really worth pointing about. It was a big deal in your experience. But then that time passed, but you kept pointing at it. Remember? Talked about it 19 years ago and 18 years ago and 17 years ago. Talked about it yesterday, talked about it this morning. In fact, you talk about it sometimes because it's entertaining, sometimes because you overcame something, sometimes because it's interesting, mostly because it's entertaining, or because it's stuck in your vibrational clock, but mostly because you have forgotten that what you point at keeps coming with you. So if there are things that happened 20 years ago that you want to recreate in today's experience, then by all means we encourage you to keep pointing at them and keep pointing them out and keep talking about them. But if it's something that you really don't want to be coming up in your experience over and over again, then don't keep updating it. Don't keep renewing it. Esther notices that if she doesn't update her software, pretty soon her machine doesn't work anymore. You notice that? Got to kind of keep updating to keep things current. Well, when it regards things that you care about and things you want to keep being active in your experience, by all means, keep updating them, keep talking about them, keep them active in your vibration. But if there's something that you've lived or something that you've observed that you don't want to be present in your day's experience, then do your best to take your attention from it, which means give your attention to other things. Decide that you are going to point toward the things that you really want. This is a wonderful time to be in a physical body. There are more people asking and therefore more people attracting, more energy moving, swifter energy moving, thoughts turning to things faster than ever before. And you knew it. You knew when you decided to come that this was a time of awakening, or some call it a time of reawakening. We are calling it a time of coming into awareness of how things work and a more deliberate interest in being deliberate about your creation, because you can't turn your attraction mechanism off. In every conscious moment, every moment that your thought process is active, then your vibration process is active too. So since you can't turn it off, you want to practice it offering a vibrational frequency that when law of attraction matches that frequency up, and it does all day every day, that what gets matched up is something that you want, not something that you are just by default lazily focusing upon because you don't remember that law of attraction is happening. Esther said, and sometimes she uses words that we wouldn't use, but we don't have any words if it isn't for Esther's words. We're offering vibrational blocks of thought, and Esther finds the words that match those blocks of thought. And sometimes she finds words that are very efficient, especially in the vernacular of what you are all living. And so after 2 or 3 days pointing at some things she didn't want and watching them come into full manifestation, Esther said to her daughter, I have the title for the next book. And Tracy said, oh good, what is it? And Esther said, Law of Attraction is a bitch. Did we say that those are Esther's words? Well, we know what she means. And then Tracy said, and what's the tagline going to be? And Esther said, co-creation at its worst. Because you get what you point at. And sometimes things happen and you notice them and you point. And the more you point, the bigger they get. And the bigger they get, the more you point. And the more you point, the bigger they get. And the bigger they get, the more they come into your experience, until you might realize, wait just a minute, I have more creative control than I'm exercising here. You know, there are two ways to know what your point of attraction is. First, you can feel it in your emotions, because your inner being is always focused upon what you want. And so if you're focused upon what you want, you feel wonderful, some degree of satisfaction and better. But since your inner being is always focused upon what you want and who you really are, who life has caused you to become, if you focus upon what you don't want, you can feel the discord, because your inner being is not ever going to join you in those thoughts. And your emotions are always about how lined up you are with you. So we know that you understand so much of this already. We have some clear ways of explaining to you how you can more deliberately move through your life experience. We like it so much when you are deliberate about your creation, and you do too. We know for sure that you've come for the satisfaction that this leading edge life experience can bring you, the satisfaction of lining up with who you are, the satisfaction of sifting and coming to new awarenesses of what you prefer further, the satisfaction of finding a way to become a vibrational match to what you've asked for, even though you aren't currently living it, the satisfaction of holding your frequency in tune with what you are asking for while you witness universal forces bringing it about. In fact, we would like you to acknowledge with us, before we are finished here today together, that satisfaction of life comes from one place and one place only, and that is you, with your thoughts, moving in the direction of who you really are and what you are asking for. And once you get your thoughts wrapped around this, your life is going to become simple to you. It's not going to feel complex and out of control. Esther acknowledged the other day she was feeling a little bit of overwhelmment, and we've been asking the question, you know, right here, right at the center of the emotional scale, is a word we placed. Esther found the word for it with the vibration that we offered some years ago, contentment. Today we're using the word satisfaction as even a more poignant word. But right in the center of the emotional scale, with despair all the way to the end that doesn't feel good, and ecstasy and appreciation and love all the way at the end that does feel good, right in the center is this emotion called satisfaction. And where satisfaction is, you have complete control. If you put your car at the top of the hill, San Francisco's a good choice, the bay is way down there, you decide you're going to give yourself a lesson in gravity and physics and inertia and the physical laws of the universe. So you take your car out of gear and you take the parking brake off and you push it a little bit from behind just to see what might happen. And right away it begins to move downhill, barely. And you know for sure what's going to happen because you understand these laws. And so you jump out in front of your car and it bumps up against you and it stops right there, because in that early stage of momentum you still had some control. But you wouldn't want to be at the bottom of the hill waiting to stop that car, because you wouldn't stop it. It would run right over you. It would take you right into the water with it. And so that's what we want you to think about in terms of satisfaction. It's right here in the center of the emotional scale where you have control, because you could be satisfied or not satisfied if you catch it in the early stages. But if you let your dissatisfaction hook in to something that's been pushing your button for 20 years, all of a sudden you're out of control. You're pretty much done for this day. And everywhere you go, people are going to be amplifying with you, and the universe is going to be delivering to you things that match that stronger momentum because you didn't catch it early. And that's really the strongest point that we want you to take away from this gathering. We want you to regain control of your thoughts, and therefore of your emotions, and therefore of your point of attraction, and therefore of your own life. We want you to understand through this simple application of mind control, catching it early, that you can be the deliberate creator of your experience, because you are for sure the creator of your own experience. No one else is offering a vibration for you. No one else is remembering the things that you're remembering that take you into the bay. Nobody else is remembering the things that you're remembering that are holding you apart from what you want. Nobody else is offering a vibrational frequency that is in your mix. You can observe others, and by your observation of things around you, you certainly can be influenced, but you are doing it all. And for the most part, we love you so much, you're not doing it on purpose.